All right. Let me know when you're ready, and then I'll record on the mixer. In my throat, man. I'm gonna be try not to like do that too much. So I have a mute button. Tell me when if I'm gonna start talking. Tell me if you can hear me.
You're good.
Okay. So if I have to clear my throat, I may do that. Just to press that button because I don't know why I keep having to do that. I don't want to do that whole episode.
Yeah. Oh, you called me.
Oh, I called you because I was like, is it working or what's going on?
Oh yeah. I was in there getting a cup. I figured,
Oh, good. Got my cup.
I should have a cup, for the topic.
Yeah. So the only thing with this background thing, it does this weird thing, But otherwise, you see the back of my bed. I don't know. It's unnecessary. All right. So you ready?
Shoot.
Okay. So when I press the intro music, it's going to be choppy on your side because for some reason on Zoom it's choppy, but on the episode on the mixer it collects it on the mixer pretty well. So it'll be what it is, and we'll talk. You'll hear me talking after that. Okay, we're going live. Welcome to Let's Grab a Cup podcast, where we talk about leadership, authenticity, resiliency. We provide a place to hold space for one another. I'm your host, Adam Sturgeon. So why don't you grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever suits you at this moment. Let's dive in. All right, well, welcome to Let's Grab a Cup. I am Adam Sturgeon, your host. And today I'm going to be talking to someone I've known for quite a while. He was a mentor to me, and we worked alongside each other for several years. Ray Alexander. Good morning, Ray. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing, Adam?
Good. So, Ray, you spent most of your career in law enforcement, about 28 years, and you started in the military, in the Marines. And I think it's fascinating. You spent most of your life in service, and now you're starting a company called Alexander SENTRY Group.
That's correct.
Focus on firearms training.
That's it. Yes. Basic safety and firearms training. There are a lot of people going out buying guns, and they're leaving the store without any knowledge on what to do with them or how to take them apart, disassemble them, clean them, maintain them, or not to mention even marksmanship skills. I take my kids to the range regularly, and one time we were at the range, there was someone who had accidental discharge in the dirt in front of us. The guy had a jam. It was a basic stovepipe, but had no idea how to clear it. Came over and asked me. He had the good sense to come and ask me, to help him out. So, being that I've always enjoyed firearms training, I figured I'd do just a basic rifle and pistol course. So I reached out to the NRA and got my certificates for that, and basic pistol and rifle, and a range safety officer.
Wow, yeah, it's cool. You told me that a few months back, and I thought that was amazing because you've been kind of undercover here doing all this stuff, getting your business set up. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, what's that?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you on. So as we get started, one of the things I like to do, especially with my guys in squad now, is the idea of checking in and seeing where you're coming out to the day. So with you, I presented a question to you, and the question for you today is, what is one thing that you are grateful for that happened to you over, let's say, the last month?
Well, given the present state that we're living in, having good health right now seems to be everything to me. Just, being able to take care of myself, that puts me in a position to take care of my family. So, I'm grateful for my health, Adam. I mean, there's so many people who walk away with injuries and that are just not able. I mean, clearly in our profession, we spend enough time in the emergency rooms to appreciate good health, having seen what some people are going through. So that's always resided with me is, being able to maintain and keep good health.
Yeah, I know it's important. And right now, feels like everybody's getting sick left and right. Like we just went off my family 3 weeks, like everybody got sick in the house. So yeah, I know that's important. It's good. I'm glad you're healthy and your family's healthy. You look healthy.
Thank you.
I like the beard. I like that growing in. I can't grow a beard like that.
Well, as you mentioned, we're talking 32 and a half years of service where I had to adhere to a grooming standard. So my fiance is not happy with it. She daily asks me to clear it. My mom wants me to get rid of it. But I'm like, after 32 and a half years, I'm going to do what I want.
There you go. Hey, it's fantastic, man.
Thanks. Thanks.
So tell me about you. Tell me how you got into, this idea of service to your country, service to the city. What brought you to this? Tell us about Ray.
So we've talked a little bit offline. For me, growing up in South Central Los Angeles, I lived in an area that they call the jungle. Most people know it from Training Day, the apartment complex that he goes into, where all those guys are hanging out. I lived there, and coming home from football practice, I would get stopped, but someone would recognize me from playing sports and they'd be, oh, no, he's cool, leave him alone. And being an athlete, I got a pass, walking through there, which, was it was scary. So there was a time when they found bodies in our pool in that complex.
Jeez.
And back then the Jamaicans were doing a lot of drugs, and they would be a shootout when they would get robbed, and no one would call the police because everyone was buying dope from them. So and my parents, being substance abusive themselves, had issues. And so I needed to get out. I needed to leave. And so I joined the Marine Corps, which a lot of people don't know. I was 22 when I went in because I was working at Santa Monica College. I mean, working and attending Santa Monica College, trying to, make it happen. And it just was not happening. So I felt it was better for me to get out of Los Angeles at the time. And that's why I joined the Marine Corps. I went in open contract, and being over 19, because usually at 19 and a half, they let you carry a firearm and become a military policeman. So I went in open contract, became a military policeman. Uh, did my time at Lackland Air Force Base, because that's where we went for our academy training. And then off to Okinawa, Japan is where I went for a year. So
So the jungle, is that the exact, like you said, Training Day, is that the exact same complex that they reference in the movie,
it is,
or the area?
it is square miles. They call it the jungle because once you go up in there, it's very easy to get lost because
Oh,
the streets are so windy, and there's a lot of apartment complexes in there. It's like the projects,
okay.
but it's just, that was just a name that was given to it. I don't know how it originated, but it's like a jungle when you go in there. And I'm pretty sure if you talk to anyone from LAPD, they don't go in there by themselves. They probably go in there several cars deep.
Right.
At least back in the late 70s and 80s when I was growing up, I'm sure it was like that. Now it's different. They've turned a lot of them into Airbnbs and
Oh,
condos.
you serious?
So yes. So the atmosphere has totally changed in there, which is nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of changes
It's not
in the city.
really, yes, it's nothing like what it was when I was growing up.
How old were you when you were living there?
High school.
Okay. So what was like when you first moved over there?
Well, my
Age.
dad had already lived over there, but because my parents weren't together, but my mom's drug abuse had gotten so bad that I asked my dad if I could stay with him because he wasn't as bad as my mom. My mom's drug abuse was debilitating. She couldn't work or do function or do anything. It's like coming home from school, there'd be strangers in the house, laying in my bed, she passed out high with her face in a plate of food. I mean, it was really bad. And so even then, I think it's just the grace of God that I had the good sense to know that I need to get out of here. I need to, because I've always envisioned myself and seen myself as a man I wanted to be, and it wasn't going to happen there. And so my dad wasn't as bad as my mom. So he let me come and stay with him. Once I left middle school, I started high school over there with him.
I can
And
imagine like that, like the seeing that every day. And I didn't know this about you until we talked a little bit yesterday about this topic, but I didn't even know this, while we worked together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it never came up, and it's not that I don't try and keep it from anyone, because I mostly share it when I would run into young adults having problems, and they would have no idea, and I would, hey, listen, I know what you're going through. You're not talking to someone that can't sympathize. Not that anyone else couldn't, but that hasn't lived what you're experiencing. I mean, because listen, it was so bad with my mom. I was out of the house 2, 3 in the morning, running the streets, and I was in junior high school. So my first daughter was born when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So I was a dad at 15. Mind you, that wasn't the first time I had been sexual, So my teenage life was very it was wild.
15 years old with a kid. What did you do? What was the course of action? Like, were you able to provide at that point, like with your family? Was your family taking care of her, with all this stuff going on with your mom and your dad?
Right. No, not nearly as much as they should. And granted, me, being 15, I didn't have any provisions. So, but I had a stepmom, Carolyn, who actually worked probation for a while. She wasn't a probation officer, and a lot of guys on the department would say, "Hey, I talked to your mom. Your mom." I knew they were talking about. She worked in the offices over there, but she would send stuff, diapers and stuff over there to her. And my daughter's still grateful to her this day, because her mom would tell her about that. So my daughter still has a relationship with her because of the impression that her mom told her about my stepmom, Carolyn Burnham.
Wow.
So, we're forever grateful that, she was there.
Yeah.
So,
It's without the support, I think what are you going to do? It's,
yeah.
it's tough. I don't even know. I don't know how you would survive that.
Yeah. And it's weird, having kids, because now I have a total of 4, 3 girls, and all adults, and the youngest boy, 12. I can't even imagine them having kids at 15. So I was like, man, what was I doing? That was just another world, another time,
Yeah.
so.
So how do you get so you moved to the jungle? So obviously you said that your dad was a little, so you said better compared to your mom, but still struggling.
His drug problem was, he was a working drug user. He was into cocaine and stuff like that. So, side note, he told me to clean up the living room one day, and so I went in there and I saw this album with all this coke on it, and I wiped it all on the floor and put the album away and vacuumed. He came in there, I was like, "Where's my shit?"
That's crazy.
He just went off. He wasn't mad at me, but he was just like, "Oh my God."
Did you know what it was?
No, I didn't. I had no idea. No idea. So I was staying with my dad, and I knew I needed to do something. When I got out of high school, I was working at this place called Sports Connection in Santa Monica Health Club. I was just cleaning up machines basically there, part-time, and I was going to Santa Monica College. And so then when it came time for me to pay child support, I knew I needed to do more to take care of my daughter. I needed benefits. And so that's how I ended up joining the Marine Corps, to provide for my daughter at the time. So,
Well, I can't believe, we always talk about, like, we worked in an area that had these type of issues going on. So I personally didn't have a story that could relate to people growing up in that type of area. But you could easily relate to these kids. And so I think that, like, that is going to be helpful for other officers, other people who want to be police officers that are living in this type of situations, and knowing that it's possible to succeed, it's possible to get out, but you have to have a pretty, like, strong mindset to be able to do that. I don't know, seeing that every day, and you're saying run the streets at 2 a.m. What are you doing for yourself to, like, keep yourself on the, I know you just said you weren't perfect, but keep yourself in the right, mindset to get going, to get to the place where you want to be.
yeah, believe it or not, there are for me, it was athletes. Tony Dorsett, back then, OJ Simpson, there were athletes that I just admired. They were men, they were class act, they dressed well, they were suited, and they were just versatile, in what they did. And for me, that was the kind of mentor that I hung on to. There was also a couple of guys from the neighborhood that became firefighters. Uh, Leroy McKnight, he was a firefighter, and he ended up passing in a tragic car accident coming back from Vegas, I think. And they had a nice tribute to him. You can probably find it online somewhere. But
Or was he a firefighter?
yes, he was with LA City.
LA City.
Yeah, yeah. But talking with him, because I was going to go in the fire department, what I took at Santa Monica was fire science before I joined the Marine Corps. I was taking fire science at Santa Monica. And because he had just encouraged me. So it was guys like that who were athletic, but class act, who were taking care of business that I was clinging to, and listening to what they were telling me on how to, do better. And, when one of the guys from the neighborhood bought a house in Cerritos, it was like, wow, it was nice,
Yeah.
He's moving out. So it just gave you hope, there were people around that you were seeing doing things and you thought, okay, as long as I stay away from drugs and gangs, and believe it or not, in a Black community, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. When I would come home from Santa Monica and work, guys would be like, oh, you think you're good? Why are you trying to be white? Dressing like that. There was peer pressure. And so
yeah,
I think that's a challenge for other young Black males that may want to. They have to deal with that pressure, and some of them aren't strong enough to be like, nah, man, I'm good. Y'all do what y'all gonna do, but I'm going in this direction. I think that's a challenge for, some, if they don't have strong role models around that they can lean on. Because Leroy was huge, wasn't nobody gonna, question that brother, and they were just, guys like that were strong, and you were like, okay, I like his way he's doing things, opposed to, that's actually weak. This dude's a family man taking care of business. Excuse me. I like that.
yeah.
So
I think that you mentioned that strong role model, and then seeing those role models for you, and the idea of hope. I think that seeing hope is probably the most important part of that. The idea of like, how can I succeed here? But seeing even glimpses of hope, like it's possible, and to be able to provide that hope to other people, and show like, hey, it is possible. Show that strong, family man. You said role model.
Yes. So, and then I ended up going to the Marine Corps, and fortunately, I had a great time in the Marine Corps as a military policeman. My time overseas, my time down at Pendleton. Like I said, I was a military policeman, and I was able to get on what we call a REACT team, which was like a SWAT team. And that was just one of the best times of my life. Even with the police department, and I say where I'm going with this is that it's not always the job, it's the people that you're working with. And I've always enjoyed the crew of men and women that I was around that just made work, no matter the hours, the mission, that just made it, worthwhile, made it easier to get through. So that camaraderie.
Yeah. I think that's like the one thing I've noticed lately is I've enjoyed most is when I come to work, is the time we've had talking and the camaraderie and all that part of the job is what's, keeping me going. And I think keeping a lot of us going, because, the job is tough these days.
Yes. And that comes back to what you prefaced in the beginning, leadership. Your leaders have to provide an environment that everyone feels good, that everyone feels like they're supported and they're getting training. Like, your leaders want them to get training so that they can do a better job. They have to be an all around good leader, because I know they have their political issues they have to deal with. But remember the men and women that are, in the field, because that's always your bread and butter.
Yeah.
That's always the meat and potatoes of law enforcement is patrol. We are in the spotlight, we're in that fishbowl. So I think as long as we have and good leadership in position, that profession will be fine. But when there's not, then there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You know?
How'd you get into like military police? Because I know when you start, from what I know, I'm not in the military, but from what I've heard, like they kind of direct you towards a certain job assignment, or how do you decide that you're gonna be a military police officer?
Well, first you take a test. I forgot what it's called, an acronym for it, ASVAB or something like that. But it's a test, and you have to score a certain level on the test, and they can tell you what jobs you're eligible for. So if you're, no offense to the old threes, that's basically a grunt, a field, troop, 0300s. Some guys, that's what they went in for. It's being 0300. That's a number that's given to your military occupation, MOS, military occupational skill. A 5811 was military police. So if you did well enough on your test and you had certain jobs that you were eligible for, I actually went in open contract, but because I had a decent score and I was over 19, again, you can become a military policeman. So open contract, that's what they gave me. I didn't find out what my job was until I got ready to graduate from boot camp.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, and you got to remember what I was saying about the environment that I was growing up in. When they asked me what I wanted to do, I was like, I don't care. I just need to get out of here. So they put me down as open contract because I literally didn't care. I just wanted to leave and get out of here before I got in trouble or things just got worse. So to the point where I would take wherever you give me, just get me out of here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was kind of sick because I enjoyed the Marine Corps. I loved it, and I think because I went in at 22, it was different for me because I had been trying to pay bills and live my life. So for me, it was like, we get to stay here for free food, and I get a check. I'm working out every day. It was like, this is nice, where other guys are complaining. So
That's fun.
subsequently, I graduated as the honor man of our platoon.
What is the honor man?
You get a set of dress blues and they promote you. You get a promotion instead of a private. I was one rank above. So, they just kind of give you some gimmies for being a good recruit, for being, but again, I was loving it. So,
Yeah. I think it's all perspective, right? Like where you came from and
yeah,
what you were trying to get out of compared to someone else who, maybe like live different life and didn't have those type of struggles and we're just, I'm going to be in the military, and they're more picky about what they wanted to do and had a different mindset, complaining.
Yeah, there's a cat named Buscemi. He was from San Clemente. The first night he was like, I'm going to call my dad. I'm getting out of here. Blah, blah. And it was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
But he, you can tell he grew up, in a very probably prominent household, They chewed him out and sent him back to bed.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
So
goodness. Well, it's kind of like how things have been changing too, even with the law enforcement career. Because when you started, let alone when I started, when you started, there was no complaining, right? Like you went in and you did what you were told, and you took the suck, right? Like there was none of this like, oh, I don't like this assignment out while you're on training, and I don't want to, none of that.
yeah, I think just there was a different level of grit because a lot of guys who were coming on were prior service men, even really before I came on. A lot of guys were coming out of the military, and the mindset of law enforcement was very paramilitary, and the academy trainings were paramilitary, whereas I think they're more college environment. Even in the military, I hear they don't, they have stress cards when they're being stressed out that they hold up. So I think our country, in terms of military and law enforcement, is changing, all the way around. I don't think it's just, our profession. But yeah, to answer your question, it was a different time where you were allowed to do police work, because as much as the community doesn't like it, you do need a certain amount of grit to get down into certain places and to go in certain alleys to, find out certain leads, to find uh, those who would do you harm, because they're not just walking around with a sign. So uh, does a level of professionalism need to stay in place? Yes, there should always be professionalism.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's without saying. And I think most guys get in trouble when they stop being professional and they start taking certain things personal, because guys are going to talk to you any kind of way. They're going to, be disrespectful, but it's up to us to maintain our professionalism and let the courts make the final decision. Let them, do the punishment. It's not our position to do punishment. We're just there to bring them to court. And I think it's challenging for some because, like back in the day, guys are a little more heavy-handed, if we're being honest. And unfortunately, in some of the more impoverished neighborhoods, more minorities were dealing with it than some of the more affluent neighborhoods.
Right.
And that's, it's unfortunate. But again, if you are not from certain areas, you don't know. You see a guy like me walking around who happened to live there, but was athletic, even the thugs knew, oh, okay, he's cool. But to some law enforcement officers, you're in that area, you're in that area, it was kind of all the way around.
One thing I noticed about you, even while we worked around each other, is that tone, that real calm tone when you dealt with, either whether it's people at work, but like the public, if someone called you, whether it's a complaint or investigation or whatever, you always had that like soothing, calm tone about you, and just you kind of like just relax. It's always about like, come on, let's relax, guys. Let's bring it down. And I think that was that I remember just seeing that like pretty regularly.
Yeah, and it's funny because I tell my daughters and my friends' daughters always have a plan to disable people that you meet. It was something we said in the Marine Corps. I'm keeping it light, but it was, I always tell them, hey, I always have a plan. So my demeanor didn't always reflect what was in my mind, what I was thinking, because if I was talking to someone, I might have my hand up by my face, but it was just to protect myself in case they wanted to throw a punch real quick, so I would talk to people, there were certain things going on in my mind
Right.
that I was preparing on how I was going to handle this person if they went south, but it wasn't necessarily reflected in my conversation, my tone, always sizing them up. So
That's funny.
yeah. Yeah.
So tell I know we kind of little brief, but like your experience in the police department, talk a little bit about what you did, and maybe what was some challenges that you faced.
Well, honestly, I don't think I had too many challenges. I had a great time in law enforcement.
I call BS on that. There's no way you went through 28 years with zero challenges.
My challenges were my own. At one point late in my career, I tried out for SWAT, and I didn't get through the interview process. That was, my own challenge. I prepared for it physically, but didn't prepare for the interview as much as I should. So, but that's on me. So, those are when I say, as far as from the department, there was probably one episode where I felt, there was a challenge from the department, but for the most part, it was great. And my challenge then was when I had gotten promoted. As soon as I got promoted, I I was working graveyard, new sergeant. I was handling everything on my own just fine. Uh, Call outs, you name it, graveyard, I was handling it. And so there was a fatality on graveyard, and the day sergeant said they would relieve me. Okay, fine. So I left. And then I had a lieutenant decide to write me up for leaving the scene unattended. but nobody wrote the guys up who said they were relieving me. They had no, no problems with them.
Interesting.
So to me, that was very suspect. And yeah, like I say, interesting. It was like, wait a minute, because I wouldn't just go home, I'm
Right.
not that kind of dude. I'm a serviceman, I've been serving Marine Corp. I've been, I understand orders and responsibility. And when I'm relieved, okay, I'm relieved. But either they were too intimidated by those day sergeants that they weren't going to say anything to them, or they were just, looking to mess with me. So uh, that was a challenge. And I had another, another time there was another issue with the same lieutenant, and they ended up putting me on a PIP.
What's a PIP for people who don't know?
PIP, personal improvement plan, where they're evaluating you weekly, and you sit down and they talk about what they're evaluating you on and how you did, and your basically your performance for that week. And so I got a new lieutenant, and
You were a sergeant at the time?
yes, I got a new lieutenant who watched me for about 2 weeks, and he was like, "This is kind of a waste of time," and he went to bat for me and went and told the chief, says, all you're going to do is turn a good sergeant into a disgruntled sergeant. He may not do it the way you or I do it, handle something, but it's always the same result at the end of the day. And they took me off of it. So
How long were you on the PIP for?
it was supposed to be like 6 months, I think, 3 to 6 months, but it only lasted about a month because, again, this lieutenant who ended up promoting up the ranks to deputy chief was like, this is a waste of time.
Yeah.
He couldn't find, there's nothing wrong with what I was doing. you know when they
Oh, go
when
ahead.
they when they when they wanted me to sign for it, to put me on it, I chuckled a little and I laughed, kind of like, like this. And they asked why, and I was like, well, because why am I laughing? I says, well, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to come to work and do my job like I've been doing, and the men and women that work for me are happy with my performance, so I'm going to keep making sure they're taken care of. You guys can do what you feel like you need to do, but I'm confident in what I'm doing in my job. And what happens in law enforcement sometimes, as you may well know, you can do that to someone and they will second guess all their decisions after that. And that's when they'll spiral downhill because they're worried about the people that are watching them and the people that are, evaluating them. But when you know what you're doing and you're confident in your job, you're going to have hiccups. Just continue to march, Let them do what they need to do, because I was confident in my abilities as a sergeant. So
I think that is important to say as far as your mindset. If you feel like I'm doing my job, I know how to do my job, I'm going to continue to do my job well. Someone or they don't like what I did in this incident, or these maybe whatever, how I'm handling these incidents. Okay, well then I'm still gonna do my job for my guys. I think taking care of the troops, it gets lost when you're worried about yourself too much.
yeah. So, and just so that we're clear, the second incident when they decided to put me on the PIP was the use of force. Some guy was ranting on that it was 10, 15 cops. They all jumped me. They all kicked me and kneed me, when it was just 2 officers that were there. And because I didn't take a complaint from him about this allegedly 10 or 15 officers beating up on him, they felt I had, neglected I was neglectful in my duties of taking a complaint from him. The guy had ran. 2 officers caught him, took him to the ground. In the story, we don't even have that many dudes working graveyard, on that shift.
Yeah.
But
Was there any evidence to show that there was more than 2 officers involved in it?
No,
Like,
no,
could there have even been more than 2 officers involved in it?
no, it wasn't. It was a simple deal. Traffic stop. He got out and ran. The 2 cops caught up to him in someone's backyard and took him to the ground and wherever.
Yeah.
He was just ranting on and ranting on, you know, and my years and experience, this dude is just a nut, you know, ranting on, you know, why'd you run? Because that's what y'all do. Well, why'd you run? You know. So, but that was the other incident, those two incidents, and they decided that let's put him on a PIP.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
did you have any, did you feel any, I know you said you were pretty strong in your commitment to handling your calls and taking care of the troops, but did you feel any, how, I guess I should say, how did you feel, during that month period of time while trying to decide, was this going to be 6 months? You don't really know the length of time until they end it. So like, how were you feeling during that time?
I was okay. Like, again, for me, I just put it out of my mind and just went back to work. You know, I can't, and I encourage anyone, don't focus on their job, focus on my job, on what I had to do. You know, because if I'm looking over my shoulder, worrying about what they're seeing, if I'm handling it the way they want me to, then I'm going to have a problem, because I can never know what's in someone else's mind.
Right.
But I know I can deal with what's in front of me and make my decision accordingly. And then if you ask me about it, I'll tell you why I made my decisions, you know, that way. You know, that for me, that's the best. That was my mindset. Just go to work and handle your business.
Yeah.
You know,
I think, well, was this pre or post body cam?
this was before body cam.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, even nowadays, we could have an incident on body camera filming it. And if a subject or someone says that an officer did something, regardless if it's the incident's recorded, like the whole thing's recorded, it's the expectation is that a complaint is taken. Like that's it. That's where it's gone to at this point. And this is, like you said, you're talking about before body cam. So I know processes were different and how we did things, but it's at the point where it doesn't even matter if it's on video, and if they say that someone did something to them, even if there's proof, absolute proof it didn't happen, my job as a supervisor is to still take this complaint.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It feels like a waste of time to me, because they're getting inundated with cases in internal affairs,
Mm-hmm.
and they're dealing with all this stuff. But I mean,
Well, I don't know if they do this or not. I can't remember, but they should have two files, or maybe even just a short form, something, because I get that they want to document that, because they don't want that person to go somewhere else and to another attorney or something and file a complaint with them and then come back to us and it's like, well, we don't know anything about it. But a short form, you know, look at this video, shows nothing, and be done with it. I think that would suffice. I don't know if they have that or not. You know, again, I've been so out of it.
I know you've been free of all of this nonsense. Hey, you know what's funny though? One thing that about you, especially the last couple of years of your career, that people would mention, and I don't even know if you knew this, but like they expected if Ray got called to a scene of a complaint was going to be taken every single time. At least that's what the thought was. And it kind of makes sense after you're saying the reason why you were put on a PIP. Like it completely makes sense why. Okay, well, if someone's going to say the word complaint, take a complaint. Like, and it completely makes sense.
There's another part to that. It was because I didn't want somebody to come behind my back, someone with more rank, and try and come after that officer. So I'd rather do my due diligence as a supervisor and show that there's no reason for this to move forward, you know.
Yeah.
And I get why guys do that, but for me, you know, again, as a leader, my job is to make sure you have one, you know. And so that was my way of protecting them. If I can prove that, you know, there's nothing here, I can ask all the right questions, I knew they weren't going to hear about it ever again.
Right.
You know? So
no, that's smart.
yeah, you know, I get it. I don't mind them having that. I didn't mind having that stereotype or stigma that I'm going to take it, because I knew if I did, it was because I wanted to make sure that it was clear that they weren't going to come back. Because a lot of people, they'll go somewhere else and try and file a complaint to somebody else's ear, whoever will listen
Yeah.
and give them the time, So yeah, it was about documentation. So yeah.
So how are you feeling right now that you've had like a couple of years, just like freedom of just, you can do whatever you want?
Well, it hasn't been a couple of years.
It feels like a long time.
I know it looks like it, but uh, it'll be a year in February. So it'll be a year next month.
Oh, is it? It's only been a year?
Yes. It'll be a year. February 7th, it'll be a year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. And yeah, and I didn't want to start the company until I had a year to enjoy and just relax. And it feels good, Adam.
Yeah. You look like, you look lighter, like relax. You look all relaxed. Like you look lighter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice life. It's good. Um, so how do I feel after a
What's the
year?
what's the biggest transition you had to deal with, or like the retirement? I know that there's a lot of guys right now looking at what's next and looking at retirement or new prospects. And then what's the biggest challenge you had to face it for going on to that next step?
Well, I can't say that I've had any. Well, my only challenges is that I'm facing is moving like my car to Virginia. I have 2 cars now. My fiance has several. So, and she's a captain with the sheriff's department, and she should be retiring maybe in the next year.
She bosses you around.
Oh yeah. Uh, I mean, I don't even. I think that's just
Do you want a pip at home too?
right. I should tell. I should print one out here. I think we need this. Uh, so my challenges haven't been great because, as you know, I've always enjoyed traveling and having hobbies, and I would, always encourage other, officers to do the same. Sometimes I would sit down and talk to them about my travels, who I booked through, and just even local stuff. If you're into mountain biking or just having hobbies. So for me, mentally, I started preparing myself to have a life away from work. So when I made the transition, I just had more time to do my hobbies, and enjoy things that I like to do. As I kind of joked with you about, I'm usually someplace having a mimosa on Fridays.
Yeah. We can have a mimosa. I mean, we have our coffees right now, but we can,
I'm having tea. I started to pour some Grand
Oh.
Marnier in here. I don't know about your audience, but so for me, the transition and the challenges were few because I had already kind of started mentally preparing myself, 5 years before, just enjoying traveling, hobbies, so that it just became an extension of, my life, and I love my place in Virginia.
Yeah.
I'll be glad when she finally retires. We can go full time.
Yeah. It looks amazing.
It's just, it is. It is. The gun laws are different. Adam, we were coming back from Buckrow Beach, about an hour from the house. There were guys on motorcycles, rockets, crotch rockets, with their shirts flapping up. All of them had handguns on.
Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, it's different state, different rules, Even when we stopped, I was talking to an attorney on the beach. I was asking about the jazz events that they have at the location. And when he found out I was part of law enforcement, he lifted up his shirt. He had a gun on him too. So I just thought, wow, this is funny. All these people out here are just carrying guns. I go into the gun store to get ammo because I keep a gun at the house, and I didn't want to transport ammo. I just figured I'll buy ammo when I get there. So I'm in the gun store. Everybody's got a gun on their hip.
Open carry then?
Yeah, I haven't even really looked into the law, but I just noticed a lot of people seem to be pretty free about carrying their firearms. I thought it was pretty cool. Coming from California.
Oh yeah, it's completely different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was cool.
So you talk about your hobbies. I know you obviously you're starting this company of shooting, but you've been shooting for forever.
Right.
And you always show up with like some weird looking firearm to show off at work. Something that collapses or is like small, like the noisy cricket.
Right, right. Well, the Kel-Tec KSG shotgun is beautiful for home defense. Kel-Tec Sub 2000, which is a 9mm carbine. Uh, it's great. You know, my kids like shooting that. So there's good hobbies, and it gives people, when I let people shoot them at the range, it gives them an idea of the variety they can have, for their own home protection, or if they're just out and about, whatever, depending on what your state laws are.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about your new venture here, Alexander SENTRY Group.
Alexander SENTRY Group.
How did that come about? You
The
told me about the
name,
name.
the name came about because, I've always wanted to honor my grandfather and my dad. So I kept it with, Alexander, which means defender of man. So I wanted to keep Alexander in it. But looking through, when I was doing my logo, it was a lot of the names that I wanted were taken. And so SENTRY, most people don't know, because I've had a few people ask me what is a SENTRY. In the Marine Corps, I first learned about SENTRY. SENTRY is like guarding your post. SENTRY is, basically a warrior, a soldier who is monitoring a post. So that's how that name came about, Alexander SENTRY. And I had to throw group on because all the other end names were taken for my domain. So for my domain name, I came up with that.
Well, I think that name encompasses your entire, story, your whole career, and what you're been all about this entire time. So I think it's a good name. I like it. And
Yeah.
your logo is really cool.
Thank you. There's a young man in Atlanta who did the logo for me. I just put it out there and he came up with that. I was like, that's it. So
Yeah, that's cool. So what is you said you kind of brought it up in the beginning of the episode, but like, what is your focus? I know I've seen your Instagram. It's really cool seeing you take your kids out shooting. It's really awesome to see. Dude, I need to take my kids out. I want them to teach them how to shoot as well. Maybe I'll hit you up. You can take us out, because they'll probably learn better from someone else.
How old are they?
10 and 8, but I want to start teaching them like all the safety stuff now, before we start moving and stuff.
So side note to that, my kids, we practiced in the living room for about a month, just dry firing, safety, pulling, engaging the trigger, taking your finger off the trigger, putting it on safe, then, having our conversation, just so they got into a muscle memory of, after pulling the trigger, putting it on safety. And if they wanted to talk, they knew to put it down, and talk. So
Yeah,
it wasn't entirely new to them once we got on the range and all the other commotion, was going on. So, but that would be my suggestion.
the training, yeah, the instilling it early, that makes sense, because I know we've all been to the range where I've taken people to the range where they do that thing and then they look and they point the gun to the side and what are you doing, but they've never shot before. They don't have the wherewithal to know that, so it makes sense to kids. Like, it definitely at practice.
Yes. So, because someone else hit me up and asked me if I would take their son. I was like, I don't have the time to go over some of the safety with your son, because he was young. I think he was about 7. Says with someone, at that age, you might want to, practice with them at home in the living room, a completely unloaded, safe firearm. Let me just throw that out there, and go over these good habits with them, so that when you go out, I was just out with my daughter, and it was, for me, it was just beautiful seeing her have good safety. I was doing some run and gun, and I can hear her flipping it on safety, taking her finger off when she would run to different targets. And I was like, that safety is most important. So, I don't know if you saw her, but she was skipping.
Yes, I did see that skipping, and it reminded me of my kids so much. Like, what is this skipping across the dirt is hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's on target though. It's awesome.
Yeah, she skipped. And when I showed her that, she didn't know she was skipping, but that's
so funny.
The little girl in her and her level of comfort,
Yeah,
it was AR-15.
Yeah.
Those that don't know, she was shooting an AR-15, and she was just very comfortable with it, but she kept it down range. You could hear her flipping safety on and off between engaging targets. uh, she was just relaxed in our little happy space. So
Yeah, it was cool.
yeah, yeah.
So what's your Instagram handles for people so they can follow you?
That's Alexander SENTRY Group.
So at Alexander SENTRY Group, and you can see like all those videos on there. You're posting videos pretty regular. That's cool.
Yes, and my website is linked onto that in the bio.
What is it?
It's same alexandercentrygroup.com.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah. So your target, like the people that you're training right now, or who you've trained, and the kind of people is like is a home defense, and like kind of new to shooting.
I'm not doing anything for home defense, but I am, again, basic pistol and rifle. You're talking someone who just bought a gun and they don't have a clue on what to do next. So I'm going over grip, trigger pull, stance, sight alignment, sight picture. And believe it or not, I've had some guys that come out that said they could shoot, and standing still, they were fine. But once we started moving, they weren't hitting anything. So, I had to work with them in a different, respect. So they weren't.
Half the police officers.
So you can be, yeah, you can be an intermediate shooter, but if you feel like, if you've all you ever done was stand still and shoot at a target, and you want to try something different, again, at being a range safety officer, I can set up, ranges. That's what range safety officers kind of do also, is just make sure everybody's being safe, not necessarily teaching sometimes, but I can, set them up and put them through some basic, closing, backing up and moving around, shooting on the move type of stuff, which if you've never done it, it's a lot of fun. And again, it takes another skill set to be able to shoot while you're moving, you know. So, but my basic target audience, new shooters,
Yeah.
intermediate, if you've never had a chance to move around and engage in targets. So,
And where are you doing the courses at? Get people out.
so primarily I've been at Rahagi's.
Where's that?
Rahagi's is in Corona. There's also ranges in Vegas, because I'm in Vegas too. Believe it or not, my fiance has a condo out there.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's where I've moved all of my stuff, my address. That's where I'm based out of, is Nevada. So I'm out there at her condo. So I'm there also because I have a home in Richmond. When I'm out there, I've made connections with the gun shops out there, and there are some outdoor ranges. Just that it's different for Richmond because you have to be mindful of the weather. Like they'll probably get snow between now and March. So, because I prefer outdoor ranges.
Right.
Indoor ranges are fine if that's your thing, but I lean towards outdoor ranges. So also in LA, there's Angeles ranges. Just it's like going towards it's north of LA, but those ranges are pretty decent also. And people don't know I choose outdoor ranges because of the ventilation systems are better. Just in terms of inhaling and breathing lead.
Right.
And I always encourage my students to wash their hands thoroughly when they're done shooting, because you don't want to go with this lead on your fingers and you're eating your finger foods. Now you're ingesting it, which, could potentially be a health hazard for you later on as far as cancer goes.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's my
So you
spiel.
thought of all it. Yeah. So again, sorry, I can hear you.
That's why I prefer the outdoor ranges, just for ventilation and being able to move around.
Yeah.
And you don't know what the level of experience is to your left and right.
Well, it's good too. I mean, like you said, like the moving around, your spacing, like you have way more space compared to like indoor ranges. You talk about like guy that you said that didn't know what he was doing and he asked you for help. I know people have seen some tragic things happen at indoor ranges, and you're in close proximity to people who don't know how to shoot. So yeah, it's no, that makes sense. I get that. I get that mindset. That's really cool. I'm glad you're on this new venture, and I think that you're going to be really successful. And you said you're licensed, you have like your range safety license. And what was the other license you said you had? These were two of them?
So pistol and rifle instructor and range safety officer.
Really cool. One thing I want to check in with you here before we close out. I don't know if this could be a tricky question here, but you talked early on about your growing up and your parents. How did that kind of end, like with your parent? Like what when ended up happening with your parents, like over time?
Sure. At 47, my dad passed away. My mom went into rehab. She spent years in rehab, and she's doing well now. And my sister also ended up in rehab. So yeah, I think everyone ended up with some sort of substance abuse problem except for me,
Wow.
you know. But yeah, so my mom is doing good. My sister is doing good. You know, unfortunately, my dad ended up passing away.
I'm sorry to hear about your dad.
Yeah, me too. He missed a lot, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, to see his son all successful and grown up and,
yeah,
living the, straight and narrow.
yeah. I ended up picking up one of those new Broncos, the big ones, and my sister was just like, "Oh, I wish Daddy could see you," you know. But yeah, I'll have to send you a picture of it. I just took it off roading yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, up in San Bernardino.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So
cool. Yeah, you sent me a picture. I'm really glad to hear that your mom and your sister are doing well. And I mean, I'm sure like it was a struggle for them for a long time, and you came out of it uh, successful, and you were able to keep that mindset. I like how you talk about like throughout your career, just having this really like this mindset that kind of got you through childhood, through the military, onto even any struggles you've had through the policing, and then even now into this new venture. I think it's admirable to have that steady mindset and just to continue to move forward.
yeah, well, the reality is you have to be humble but confident. You know, humble enough to ask people for help, talk to others that are around you, and you know, who may have gone through some things that you're going through, get their advice, and be confident enough, you know, in your abilities, because you cannot do that if you are not the sharpest tool in the shed. You know, you just shoot yourself in the foot if you're too arrogant to own your own mistakes and realize, okay, maybe I could have did something better. But you know, if not, then you know, that's not the case, and that's not the case. But you all the way around have to be a humble person and do a self-assessment about certain things just to make sure that you're in line, you know. And if you're in line, you're good, you understand the assignment, you know, then you know, by all means be confident, continue to march. Don't let uh that one person, because a lot of times it is just that one supervisor or one coworker that you just will for some reason never get along with.
Right.
Oh, you can't let them make or break your career, you know, because there is light at the end of the tunnel, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's hard for some people to see sometimes. I mean, I know I was in there too at one point. Just like to see that light is difficult, but to know that they feel that hope and to feel that ability, like see other people are able to get out of it, and their struggles, and then they've had maybe harder times or different times that are similar, and to see that hope, I think is important. And by being able to relate and know that, hey, you went through something and you can help someone else with your story.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I really appreciate you coming on today. Like you said, we'll just repeat your handles real quick. You can find Alexander Sentry Group at Alexander Sentry Group
Yes.
on Instagram, and then www.alexandersentrygroup.com.
Yes.
And
Century is spelled with an S.
Sentry with an S. All
Yeah.
right.
It's
Um,
and just for clarification, it's Century is SENTRY, not Century like
oh yeah.
years.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, absolutely. That is good. I didn't even think that, but that's a good clarification.
right. I mean, you know, because we're talking about it and they don't see it, they could be
Right.
imagining see the CENT, you
Yeah.
know,
I'll try to
spell.
put it up. I'll put it up when I post this, and I'll put it up exactly your website and your handle and everything. So it'll be in the notes and the show notes.
Okay.
But
Good to
yeah,
go.
right.
Good to go. Thank you, sir.
Hey, when you're in Virginia, I want to come out. I got to come out to this place, man. I got to see it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Let me know.
All right. Sounds good. We'll talk soon.
All right. Love you, brother.
All right, buddy.